Hey, so this is a bit impromptu. I have no, you know, script or anything prepared for this, but just kind of wanted to make a video documenting um, why I started a business and I guess my road to getting here, and also just solidifying like what I hope to achieve and what I hope to get out of it. My name is Sean. I started Fluid Studios, which is a lighting and rigging company. And really, I started it out of, kind of not knowing what to do with my life and kind of being in between jobs and not being a part of a industry that I felt was, fulfilling the financial needs that I had. For the past couple of years, I've worked in the film industry. I do something called rigging electric, which is basically it's a job on that emerges from bigger film sets when you have, large sets being built and you have big days on location. You need a lot of power. That's basically where this department starts to emerge. And it's a great job. I got super lucky. When I was 20 years old, I moved to Pittsburgh and I got a job working in IATSE and working on films. And I definitely don't take that for granted. I remember like being one of the first of my friends to have a job that paid over $30 an hour, and that felt really good. And I felt like, oh, like I'm really doing something. I'm really going somewhere. Boom, boom. And I think that I sort of got lazy and stagnant for a few years, and I was like, oh well, I don't want to take anything that's like under that. And a lot of people kind of deal with this in the industry. It's like, oh, I have some sort of rate. I don't want to undercut myself. I don't want to take if this show ends, I don't want to take a 9 to 5 because they're only going to pay me $15, $18 an hour. I'm worth more than that. Very common thing to run into, in any industry, really. Like, any sort of gig-based industry, you're gonna have that feeling of like, oh, I shouldn't be doing anything else, but what do I do when I can't do the thing? And so this was the issue that I ran into, and this past year has been brutal for the film industry. I mean, like coming off of like strikes and COVID, and a number of factors that kind of played into it. Film industry has been really tough, and there's only been about like one show in Pittsburgh at any given time, if that. Usually, like for half of the year, there's 0 shows, and I just found myself in this position where I was just getting poorer and poorer by the day. Like I actually had like started to go negative for the first time in my life, like net worth wise, and that was super scary. And unemployment had run out, whatever. And I had a moment this summer. I was working with one of my friends on helping with the house that he was staying at. We were just like hitting bricks. We were just like basically tearing down these 2 chimneys that were in there. And he also works in the film industry. He's works in the same department as me. We both specialize in lighting, so like we understand each other's perspective on like work environment and everything. And I just expressed this like, I was just like at ends with the fact that I felt like I was waiting for some producer from halfway across the country to maybe come to Pittsburgh so I could maybe have a job. That was my work situation. That was like the extent of how I made money at the time. And that really sucked because I felt like I was worth more than the like jobs that were kind of coming at me. But also simultaneously, like I didn't know how to look for things that felt good enough. Like I just didn't, I was at this like hard brick wall where I felt like I was the one waiting for work, and it felt backwards, as someone, I'm 23 years old, I'm a young, hardworking man. I felt like that was completely backwards, that I would be waiting for someone to employ me. Like, people should be wanting to employ me for the skills that I have and the energy that I have. And around that same time, I was at a bar, and I'm pretty friendly with the bar owner, and I'd seen a show there that one of my friends was doing, and she was a drummer, and the show was really dark, and so I just kind of bantering with the bar owner that night after the show. I was like, oh, like, Barry, where are your lights? Like, what are you doing? Like, I couldn't see anything on that. I'm just bantering, I'm not being completely, I didn't mind, really. And he, like, got really serious, and he was like, oh, man, like, I really need some lights. And, I'd just come back from a trip that I was on, and the show that I was working on had just ended, and I was in this moment of like, oh my God, what the fuck do I do for work? And I kind of just like looked at him, and I said to him, I was like, well, I could do your lights, fuck it. And I think I just had a lot of built up frustration at the time and motivation to do it, and so I did a bunch of research on, a lot of the technical stuff I already knew, like how to, rig a light to a pipe, whatever, how to do the cable and everything. I was like really solid on that. But then there was some, question marks about like, oh, like how do I screw into a ceiling? Also going with building codes, and like there's just all these questions that come up when like you're the one doing it. There's no, you don't have a boss above you saying, okay, today we're just gonna do this, this, and this. Like, it was just gonna be me and two of my friends, and we're gonna bang this out. And so there was all these questions that I had to have answered, and I'm like really grateful that I did it, because I had to do so much. I had to form an LLC, which became this company, and it just kind of set me on the path to entrepreneurship, which I felt like I always wanted to do in my life. And this was kind of like the catalyst. It was like the perfect moment of like, I felt like my work life was falling apart, and I had this random opportunity come up where that was able to happen. And so I'd love to be like, oh, I did the job, and now I get a job every month, and everything's great, and I make so much money, and my life's perfect. It's like, no, I'm actually poorer than I was then. Oops. It turns out trying to start a business is really hard. And it took like, so we completed that job, and I totally underpriced it. I only paid myself like, I'm not going to go through the numbers, but I didn't take any profit on the job. I didn't know that was I didn't know that. I didn't know that I should charge profit for my company, like just to go in my company's bank account. And I underpaid myself. So no profit plus underpaid myself, wasn't great. But, I just was so scared about the job not going through, yada, yada. It was a big, install, it ended up being like $6,500. So that was like a lot of money. And I just wanted the sale to go through. So I ended up underpricing myself. And it is what it is. I'm not regretful about that, because I had to learn kind of how much everything costs, and what's the percentage of profit that you take on a company. Now I know that number is like 20%. You should be taking 20% profit on the quotes that you make. Like once you figure out how much your equipment is going to cost and your labor, including paying yourself if you're going to be a technician on it, then at the end, but I didn't know at that time. I digress. Anyway, after that job, it took me 4 months from that moment to get another like high ticket install. And this was an install that we did last month. We installed 40 feet of pipe at a church, and that was a several grand job. But in between that, I had like two little things. I went out one day, and I was like doing outreach, and I came across this like flower shop, and I like kind of helped him build up his studio. He needed to take photos of like his flowers, because he was an older guy. His business has suddenly been thrust into e-commerce. He didn't really know how to take good pictures, didn't understand lighting, and so I like taught him a bunch of shit about it, not even expecting to really sell him on anything. I was just like, hey, like, you need to learn like what backlight is, you need to learn what proper exposure is, you need to, just really a lot of camera stuff. I was like, dude, like, you just need to know what angle to hold your camera at, and you should paint this wall black, and put this here and pull it away from the wall, the adding depth, just like all this, just kind of word vomiting. And I ended up just buying some studio equipment, and that was a cool job because it was super low ticket, but I made good money off of it because I felt like most of what I did was consulting. And so I was able to give him a lot of value for the time that I was there. And so that kind of worked for both of us. Another tiny job that I did is like we uninstalled like some track lighting at a dispensary. That was like a random little thing where I like called an electrician that I knew and was able to kind of subcontract the job out to him, and then I took like a little bit of profit. And then this pipe install job, which actually was my first inbound. Somebody had heard that I did that job at the bar, and so they reached out to me and said, hey, are you able to do this, blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of insane to think that like in the 5 months that I've been in the business, like I at least put 4 days a week, roughly 6 to 8 hours into this business. Like I would say that I work pretty consistently and pretty hard on it. Obviously I still take film gigs. So like, I'll take like 2 weeks off to go work on an indie film, or, another IATSE show just started up. And so I'm like taking some time on that, so I'm still kind of juggling a couple of buckets. But it's just kind of insane to think about how hard a business is to get going, because there's this like weird paradox that you discover where like you're the only one that you can convince to care enough about it. And so you have to like wear all these different hats, but in order to grow, you need to, kind of delineate these tasks. And it's just like this kind of unbeatable paradox where like the only solution is you just keep fucking going, and you hope that, at some point you make enough profit. Okay, this person, okay, we could bring them in and they can start helping me with this. Like, I have to spend my week, doing the outreach, trying to find the next client. Once I maybe have a client, I gotta like, I gotta sell them. That selling process starts. I gotta work with them on what they want, deliver a quote, make the close. That's a whole different department than what the skills that I learned as a skilled worker. That was never really a part of my skill set. And it's I don't know. It's just, I don't know quite where I'm going with this, but I'm just trying to take a snapshot of where I'm at, and I have hopes that things will not always be this hard. And I think what I want the business to be is something that feels, I still want to be a part of the film industry. I still have this goal of, making movies that matter and that also make me some money. And, I think I can do both. And I hope that Starter Fluid can kind of fill those gaps, because that's what I really needed for the past couple of years. I needed something to fill the gaps. And I hope that Starter Fluid can become a business where at some point I can start to take my foot off the pedal, and people are interested enough in it, and it's profitable enough, and it's a service that like enough people need. Like a lot of people want to be in physical spaces again. Like people don't want to be on their devices so much anymore. They're trying to get away from it, and so like venues and parties and churches, just like places of community, I think are going to be valued. And I think that one of the advantages too is that, it's pretty AI proof, like I have to get in there with my hands and install lights, and it's going to be a long time before the robots can do that. And yeah, I have this hope that, at some point I can do $100,000 of revenue in a year. This year we did $10,000 of revenue, or maybe 12. We had an inbound drywall job this month, but I'm not going to count that because that's the new year. Last year I think we did just about $10,000 of revenue, which is like like such a small fucking number for like a business. And like, to put it in perspective, I've received $0 from my business. Like, I've never paid myself, because like that first job, I just took my entire paycheck from it, and then just kept it as profit for the business, because I didn't take any actual profit. So I just was like, oh, I guess I got to reinvest this in the company. I don't know, all this to say, like, I've just put so much work into it, for such like little return. I'm still doing it. I don't know. Again, it's just like that weird paradox. It's like, when you're starting something, you know that it's going to be super inefficient, but you can't just wake up one day with a business that has recurring revenue. You have clients that need your help every week, and you're just making money. Like, that's not real. Like, no one, who's going to give you that? Unless you're inherit into it, I didn't do that. So I don't know. I think it's just one of those things that sucks for a while. And I hope at one point it sucks a little less, and I make a little bit more money. And I've had these like little glimmers and these little moments where like on this last church install, like I was able to pay my guys like really well. Like, they got really good day rates, and like the company made like a good amount of money, and that felt amazing. Like, I can't explain the euphoria that I felt from like feeling like there was some net positive benefit from what I was doing. Like, I was improving my own life because my business was gaining value, and my friends were gaining value, and I was gaining value, and the church that I was doing it for, they were getting what they needed. They were getting the service that they required in the time constraint that they needed. That feels very good to me. And I remember like going to sleep that night being like, I just wish I could do this every week, like indefinitely, because that like really just, it just got me going, so I don't know. I hope that that's something that I can do in the future. And I hope that's what the big business becomes. But we'll see. Anyway, that's about it.